Pastor Stephen E. Boyd, author, speaker, church planter, musician, producer, singer, and songwriter, a rising influential leader whose impact is gaining national and international attention. Affectionately known as the Professor of Praise, his life's mission is to help ordinary people experience the power of an extraordinary God. Saved at the age of 9, he's a third-generation preacher of the gospel of Jesus Christ and is deeply committed to the Great Commission. As CEO of SB Entertainment, he hosts the Stephen Boyd Radio Show, which airs weekly on KSDE Radio on the Live 365 radio platform, speaks and trains as motivational speaker in K through 12 schools and conferences throughout the United States, and travels as a gospel recording artist for Rev Nation, led by music industry mogul Denise Dissner Davis. And now, ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, get ready for the Professor of Praise to lead you into an extraordinary worship experience. Please welcome to the stage, Pastor Stephen Boyd.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Pastor Stephen Boyd, the Professor of Praise, where I'm helping ordinary people tap into the power of an extraordinary God. I am so delighted that you're here with me on the Heal the Land Xperience radio show on Live 365. Hey, let us know that you're listening and watching. If you would shoot me an email at info@iamstephenboyd.com. Again, that's info@iamstephenboyd.com. And I would just love to know who you are and where you're listening or watching this on YouTube from. Well, I have a very special guest. For those of you that have been watching and listening, this month is the month of March, and we're celebrating Women's History Month. And we thought we would do a segment on women of faith and business. And I have a wonderful, very wonderful woman who is here to share about her faith and her business practices. Her name is Vicki Wright-Hamilton. Here is a little bit about her. Vicki Wright-Hamilton is a seasoned executive coach, a dynamic keynote speaker, renowned for her empowering influence on entrepreneurs and corporate leaders. As the CEO of BW8 Consulting, she combines her rich experience in business leadership with a personalized coaching approach, guiding clients towards unparalleled success. Her unique game-based methodology, inspirational journey as a Black woman in tech and business have made her a sought-after coach and a speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, please help me welcome this woman of faith and business, Miss Vicki Wright-Hamilton. How you doing today, Vicki?
I'm great. Thank you so much. I am so blessed to be here today.
Yes. I'm telling you. So Vicki and I met for the first time about 6 months ago at an event called Speak, Sell, Shine. It was an exclusive event for those of us that God has blessed us to be speakers in different arenas and different places. And we were there with Pam Perry, who is the PR guru, who was helping us get better. And we just connected along with some other people. And when we could talk, we found out that both of us are people of faith. And I thought it would be very, very advantageous to my audience to hear from someone like her as relates to not only being successful in business, but how her faith has grounded her. I'm so glad that you're with us. So, Vicki, let's start off with a story that you shared in the car about your father being raised in the South and how he did some things to protect you all from the Ku Klux Klan. That story stood out to me so much more. I said, she's got to share that story. I want you to share with our listeners a little bit about that story of your father's bravery.
So my father was in the military, and during that time, if you were passed over, he was an officer. And during that time, if you were passed over as an officer, you had to come back in as an enlisted man. And Daddy was like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to take my GI Bill and I'm going to go get my bachelor's, master's, and PhD. I'm going back to school. Okay. So that's what he did. So for a celebration, after doing that, we were going to go on a vacation. Mm-hmm. And during that time, it had the station wagon. He always had the bed ready for me and my brother to sleep in the back. And, we would just take car rides, right? Mm-hmm. So we were on our way on this vacation. And my brother and I used to always, every time we passed a country and we saw horses. We would say horse country. And we start singing songs and talking about the animals and all of that. And then it was cow country. Well, we had just passed the cow country and we hear these sirens behind us. I said, uh-oh, Daddy. I said, there goes the police. And so Daddy was like, yep, there goes the police. So they pull us over. They were going to give him a ticket and all of that. And we ended up continuing down the road. Well, while we were going down, the officer was not kind to him at all, and really got upset because he didn't call him yes, sir. So when we got back in the car, Daddy used to always tell us stories. And Daddy said, look, we're going to the part of the country where not only that we're visiting, but we're eventually going to move to. And I need you all to understand something. And we said, what? And he said, it's the area of the Ku Klux Klan. I said, the Ku Klux Klan. He said, yeah, I know you all, we always talk about racism and all that happens, that goes on. He said, but you're going right in the middle of it. And so we have to always be protected. So if you ever see anything going on, or your mom and I ever say hit the deck, that means get down to the floor. So we had moved to this location and we were in the living room, and we could hear gunshots and things. And Mom and Daddy said, hit the floor. And we did, and they got out with their guns because they were going to protect us.
Wow.
And one of the things I said to Daddy was, when we were having this conversation was, but we said gun is violence. He said it's violent until you start messing with my family. And we talked about fish. So that's actually what happened.
I like your daddy already, boy. I'm telling you, he sound like a mean mama jamma. I'm talking about he don't mess with my family.
Yeah, that was my daddy. My daddy was adamant about his family, and so was my mama. So it was ingrained in both of us, and they were both very active in the civil rights movement, and that's why Daddy got passed over. And my mother was believed in, not only she was an activist, and she truly helped when it came to civil rights and starting movements and actually walking the walk. But she and Martin Luther King went to school together, so it was.
My father has a very similar experience when they marched across the bridge to Selma, and he marched with Coretta Scott King, and so he was from that particular area, and so I often would hear him share those stories of that time as well. And that's really what has probably been some of the driving force behind some of the things you do in terms of your consulting, and not only that, but your faith. So talk a little bit about how those experiences help drive you to be the entrepreneur that you are today.
Well, it's interesting. Those experiences set the foundation, but something actually occurred in my life at the age of 24 that really set my belief in my faith moving forward.
Okay.
I was 6 months pregnant and was told that I was going to have to go into the hospital. I had toxemia, which is a blood disorder disease. And that they weren't sure whether I was going to live or my son was going to live. And so I had to make the decision and the difficult choice to sign papers. And I said, no, I want my son to live. I've been here 24 years. And I believe that it's important that he gets a life. And my mother was there, and I said, Mama, you can raise him. And of course, she didn't like my decision, but I said, this is my decision, and this is what I want. So through the process, I died on the table for 3 minutes.
Oh, my.
And when I did, I had the beautiful opportunity to meet Jesus on a porch at the pearly gates. I was on my bended knees with my hands out, and I said, Lord, please let me in. And he looked at me and he said, no. He said, it's not time yet. Your job is to go back and help all of those who would never get an opportunity. The ones that get looked over, the ones that don't get help. You take care of them, and I'm going to take care of you.
Wow, that is powerful.
So when I woke up and my mother was looking at me, I was like, Mama, why are you crying? She said, you made it. I said, it's not time yet. God said it's not time yet, so I'm okay. And she had no idea what I was talking about. But at that point, I took my background of what I had been exposed to as a child, and my mother never allowing me to use race, age, or sex
Mm-hmm.
as a crutch. It
Mm-hmm.
was always that, when it occurs, we have to prove that it occurred. So she would
Mm-hmm.
never let me use those as excuses.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But when things actually happen, they both were in ways of how can we help you to overcome them.
Mm.
So my background, along with that incident, allowed me the opportunity to really understand what is faith and what does faith really mean when you've been told what you need to do.
My goodness.
And the impact of that is that you and I both know,
Mm-hmm.
those of us that are faith believers, the more
Mm-hmm.
that we believe and do, the busier Satan tries to get along the way.
Oh, come on now. Come on now.
So let's not talk about the life since 24,
Mm.
because the tests have truly turned into testimonies, but
Mm-hmm.
they became testimonies because of my faith and understanding it was going to be all right. No matter what hurdle I met, no
Mm.
matter what happened, it was going to be all right.
And you said something that I think we need to have a conversation around as relates to many people come to faith to avoid problems, to avoid hurdles, to avoid mountains. Because many times it could have been mountains and hurdles and other things, whether it's um, involuntary things that have happened in life or voluntary things because of bad decisions. But what I hear you saying is been the faith that has grounded you through those very challenging times. So the first thing I like to talk about, and I know we'll transition into a wonderful video where you're really talking and unpacking a little bit more about that faith and how you give advice to other women that are in business. But how has faith informed you as a business person, as a businesswoman, as a coach? Now, in the season years of your life, as you said in your bio, what is it that faith has done for you presently?
Well, through all the trials and tribulations in my life as a Black woman in technology, not to mention moving up through the executive ranks, if I didn't have faith, I wouldn't be here today,
Mm,
even through the trials and the tribulations. Because one of the things I learned is that he gives us trials and tribulations so we have a testimony to tell in the end.
yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if we didn't believe in him, if we didn't trust in him, and we didn't think that there was something on the other side that was getting us to the mountaintop, why would we care? Why would it
Mm,
matter?
mm-hmm,
So taking that essence and really, as I left corporate America and started my own business, I knew I wanted to serve and I wanted to serve others.
mm-hmm,
Knowing that I wanted to serve, I wanted to use the wisdom and the things that I had gained from three areas.
mm-hmm,
One, the technology side, when we start talking about any kind of transformation, requires change.
mm-hmm,
And change is all about people. And when you're able to help people move forward, you're making a difference.
mm-hmm,
Well, helping those people allowed me the ability to do leadership coaching.
mm-hmm,
That leadership coaching, because I believe everybody's a leader. A title does not make you a leader.
mm-hmm,
A position does not make you a leader. You
mm-hmm,
are a leader within your own right. So it allowed me to help many, many people as they're going on their trajectory of not only understanding how to navigate waters within their career, but how to navigate waters when they want to change, when they're looking at
mm,
leadership skills and development.
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
Well, the third piece that got me into the business side was that as a corporate person, I sat on the other side of the desk. I had to meet these small businesses and tell them when I had budget, when I didn't have budget, and what
mm-hmm,
that meant.
mm-hmm,
And I was so tired of these small businesses coming and not being prepared, not having the answers of what it meant. So when I started out in my business, it was truly on faith because I never thought
mm-hmm,
I would have my own business. That was not my trajectory.
mm-hmm.
That was God's trajectory.
Come
Because
on
I
now.
thought I lost my job worked myself out of a job as a corporate executive in C-level, and I was going back to corporate where there wasn't a corporate job. God said, I got
Mm,
different plans for you.
Come
And
on.
those plans included caregiving. And so
Mm.
I had to caregive more than what I already was doing. I was already caregiving for a brother-in-law and my brother, but I ended up having to caregive for my mom and my dad and a cousin too through this process.
Oh,
I
wow.
didn't know that when it happened, right? So when I started, I was like, okay, I get a project because I still got to put food on the table while I'm
Hmm.
doing all of this. And then a project that was supposed to be 2 months went to 2 years. Then another project's 2 months went to 2 years. Before I knew it, I had been in business for 5 to 6 years before I even decided to recognize I was in a business.
Okay.
Right? I didn't recognize a solopreneur. I didn't recognize I was in a business. I was like, I'm just helping over here. I'm just
Right.
assisting. Because I
Hmm.
thought I was going back to corporate.
Right.
And that was not God's plan for me. So it has truly been faith because being in your own business, anybody who knows it, is not for the weak at heart.
It's not for the weak at heart. It's not for the weak at heart. And you know what? As you're talking, it reminds me of this statement that says, "If you ever want to make God laugh, tell him your plans.
I know that's right.
Tell him what you're going to, God, this is what I'm going to do."
Right.
You know. And so part of a video that we're going to watch now is more about that journey where it's almost like you yielded to when I guess when you reflect back, you recognize that you were really yielding to a higher plan and a higher order that God had for you. So why don't you talk to us a little about a video that we're going to watch, what you're sharing that video, and then we're going to take some time to watch a little bit of a clip of that video. It's really been an inspiring video. Why don't you talk to us about that?
Well, thank you. It truly is one of those things where the faith brings me joy. The joy gives me the purpose. The purpose allows me to continue to accelerate to serve others.
Mm-hmm.
And my journey has truly been where I wanted to give back. I started out where, even, as I was doing my own thing, I started 2 television shows.
Mm.
Both of my television shows were shows where I didn't charge guests to be on because I love your opening statement. I just wanted ordinary people. I get so tired of hearing you got to have a household name. I'm a household name in God's eyes. It doesn't matter about a household name in everybody else's eyes, right?
Yeah.
So I
Mm-hmm.
created platforms. And one of those shows that I did is called Strategic Minds Making Money Moves, which
Mm-hmm.
allow Black businesses to get on a platform. Tell me about your business. What
Mm-hmm.
audience do you serve?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about what you're looking for, what you're all about. And then they brought one strategic issue and we shared it on air. But
Nice.
that was my way of giving back. That was my way of providing an opportunity for others. So my whole journey of everything I have done has truly been about serving others, but keeping that faith grounded that God, this is what I think I want to do. If you want me
Mm-hmm.
to do it, open the
Mm-hmm.
door, bless it. If you
Mm-hmm.
don't, close the door immediately,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
Because I don't want to do anything you don't want me to do. And as he continued to bless it season after season after season that I was doing, I said, Lord, I know you're doing this for a purpose. And
Wow.
one day I will be on somebody's big broadcast. I don't know when that day is. I don't know how it's going to come about, but I know it will come about because I know God put me in the position to do that. And
Mm-hmm.
I believe that.
Well, we're going to watch a little of that segment called, say it one more time, Making Money Moves. What's the first part again?
Strategic minds make
Yes.
money move.
Strategic Minds Making Money Moves right here on the Heal the Land Experience Live 365 with Stephen Boyd. You're about to watch a little bit about this Strategic Minds and Making Money Moves. Don't go anywhere.
Amazing. And we talked a little bit about how much you've mentored people over the years. Let's tell people how I came to know you
You
10 years ago, what you were doing. Tell them a little bit about the right answer and, the true history and legacy that you have built over all of these years.
Well, it's interesting. My brother, it was 14 months older than I am. He got to a point where he had neuropathy in his legs and could not teach any longer. And so I wanted to do something. He was very good with computers. And I was thinking about how can I help him have a better quality of life when he couldn't go to work, and he was at home. What could we do to move it forward? And so I had a conversation with him. And he said to me, Vicki, you have mentored people all of your life. And I said, yes. And he said, so what can we do with that? And I had this vision. And I said, you know what? It would be wonderful to offer a mentoring program. And I really wanted to help girls and women at the time. And I said, maybe I can partner somebody who has a need with someone who has the expertise, and they could coach they could coach them and help them to move forward. It would be free of service. I would do it globally, and I would have him run my operations. So it was called The Right Answer, off of Vicki Wright-Hamilton, but The Right Answer, and it gave my brother something to look forward to. Unfortunately, I lost my brother in 2014, and at that point, I just could not take the steps to move forward. Now, he always made me promise him that I would never stop helping others, because he always said that was a gift. He always kept saying to me, you've had experiences, you need to share your experiences to move forward. So I took on coaching instead of The Right Answer, but it took me a long time to get through that journey and really understand that I could go on, because I missed him so much. He was my right hand in everything I did. But that's how The Right Answer was born. And we had probably 25 matches. I have people in Ghana today that are still working with each other. I have people all over the world, and they always tell me this was the best thing you ever did, and I still keep up with my mentee and my mentor. That warms my heart, because that's what it was all about, was being able to help others and help them to move forward.
Right. I tell you, I feel like we've lived a million lives together, right? Because we've come so far since then, and the brand has expanded so much since then. So it's really been a blessing to be along this journey with you. And to talk about that and take it a step further, you work with so many working mothers. What is your advice for working mothers, both single and married? Because I know you know both sides of it, and it's a hard thing, isn't it?
Look, motherhood is not easy. Being a parent is not easy. And a lot of times we like to think that we can, our babies are born and you know how to raise them and what to do. Every child is different, and trying to learn what makes them tick, trying to understand how we can move forward is such a challenge. What I will tell you, though, is that first, you have to know yourself. Mm-hmm. And I was not a mom to stay home every day. I needed intellectual stimulation. I needed to have that opportunity where I was stretching my mind and my brain. So in doing that, I really took the chance to say, I have to make a way, even when I was a single mom. What am I going to do to spread that time, even as a single mother, and get my business to move forward? I went through times where I had people come to my home to take care of my children. I had times where I had to have my children in daycare in terms of moving forward. But they were decisions that I had to make in order to make that work. And I could not do it without what? A schedule. My life went around a schedule. I got to drop them off at this time. I got to pick them up at this time. I got to do this. I got to take them to this place. Got to go to this place. I have to stretch these things out. These are the things I have to do. And then this is my time. So I will tell you that my life has gone around a calendar, and that's how I made it work. But I was also honest with myself. What can I do, and what can I do? We're going to take a station break, and when we come back, I'll tell you a little bit more about that story.
Strategic Minds, Making Money Moves with Vicki Wright-Hamilton focuses on helping entrepreneurs to overcome their business challenges to help increase their bottom line. Each episode provides strategies for growth and transformation. Watch Vicki share her 20-plus years of experience as a corporate executive to help entrepreneurs level up.
Welcome back. So, as I was talking about, you asked me about single mothers and all of that. I always encourage them to know that we all have strengths, we all have talents. Understanding what yours are and how you can magnify them is important. Understanding whether you're a mom that can be at home. Some mothers are great mothers at home. That wasn't me. I would not have been a good mom, a good wife, or anything when I got married, because I knew what I needed in order to be the best person for them. And being married, I will tell you that, just as you have time for kids, trying to find times for your spouse. And, I will tell you, don't start anything you don't plan to continue. But when my husband and I first started dating, and then we got married, every Friday night was date night, and every Saturday night was family night. So we knew we had time to go out as a family, and everybody knew it. And we knew that we had date night on Friday night. It was just the two of us. And we would tell the kids as they got older, you can go with your friends on Friday night when we go to our date night, but Saturday night is sacred. That's our family night. And then on Sundays was the time that we had our family meetings. Whatever we needed to talk about, whatever was coming up the next week, the things we had to prepare for. But that's what worked in my household. And that's how I was able to manage it.
I love it. I love it. So as a woman, it comes with a unique set of challenges, whether you're married and you have children or not. What was your greatest challenge as a woman in business?
Well, it's interesting you asked me that question. I came up during a time in a field of technology where it was a male-dominated field, and basically a white male-dominated field.
Right.
And being an African-American woman, you were always in rooms by yourself. You were always on the outskirts. You were not necessarily included. And I think the hardest thing for me was to recognize this is the way it is, and how are you going to make lemonade out of lemons? How are you going to make sure that success comes through this? Right. And what are you going to do? So I decided that, let's use the teacher-student mentality. If the men were making it happen, why don't you be a student to the men and learn everything they do, why they do it, how they do it, the way they do it, the decisions they do it, so then you can play the game too. Because we can play the game as long as we know the rules to the game.
Absolutely.
Right? And sometimes we say, well, I know the rules, but they keep changing. But when you give back to them what they have taught you, then you're giving them their own words, their own language, their own way, and it's hard for them to go, she's smart enough to do this.
Right.
So I think the hardest thing for me was, always being the only, being lonely, not having anybody to look up to. I was the person everybody else looked up to, right? I was the only leader. I was the only executive. I was the only one in this field. It was the only. So I had a lot of pressure because I felt like I had to be successful. I had to make sure that others could see.
Oh, Miss Hamilton, the wisdom, the advice, the aura, and the depth of what you shared in that interview for other women. I mean, I'm a man, but there was such great advice, not just in terms of when you talked about the schedule. I want you to unpack it. It was all so good. Let you unpack it. So let's talk a little bit about when you were talking about finding what works for you as a woman. Because again, this month is Women's History Month, and we're talking about women of faith and business. And we've talked a little bit about faith, but this was very much you kind of really giving business advice and how you balance it all and knowing who you were and what was the impetus for you building your business. So talk to us a little bit about some of that advice and that wisdom and the why you wanted to share some of that advice and wisdom.
Well, I found myself at a point, as I mentioned, where I was going to go. I thought I was a corporate girl, and God said, no, let me, you really going to be caregiving and you don't know it yet. And as I started down that journey, there are so many roles to play. You're going to be a caregiver. You got to be a wife. You got to be a mother. You're going through, you're having your first grandchild. You're going to be a grandmother. You are, a sibling, a friend, and a business. And I had to really sit down and understand for me what was most important. So the first thing was, it's my mother. My mother and my brother and my father, they are my top, and my brother-in-law, they're my top priorities. So whatever I have to do to manage around that, I'm going to do. Second was, I got to put food on the table. I got to continue to bring something in. So what is it that I can do that allows me the ability to have flexibility, that I can maneuver schedules around between doctor's appointments and visits and all the things that I had on my plate from a caregiving perspective to bring money in, and the maximum amount of value that I could do that in.
Right.
And then the third thing was, after, I have to also cultivate and keep my family and relationship together. And so my husband and I, since we have been married, we did two things when the kids were at home. We always had a date night, just the two of us. And that date night may be sitting in the basement watching a movie while we had somebody who was doing childcare upstairs. But we always had a date night on Friday night. And Saturday night was family night. We would all go somewhere on family, whether it was bowling, a movie, or something, but we always did something as a family. When I found myself in this caregiving role, even though I was tired, I was exhausted, I knew that I had to keep my relationship going with my husband and my family.
Okay.
So I kept my Friday nights, right? And my family would come over, as my sons got grown and older and moved out and all of that, they would come back to the house, usually on Sundays, and come visit for a while. So I get to see them too. And as I continued to go through this process, the schedule of time became so important. But it also allowed me to do what I create, a portfolio of time.
Okay.
Every day is not going to be the same. Allow yourself to look at a week. Some weeks, that portfolio of time meant I had to give more to my mother and the caregiving than I had to give to my job or to my family. But the next week, I might have to give more to my job than others. You have to understand what that's going to look like and plan for it. So what I did is my role in my job was flexible because I knew that I had to have, right? So I went after, I had a great job that I was working on in project, and I knew what days I had to go in the office. So I planned doctor's visits around it. I knew what times I had to go in, and any work I had to do, I knew that I could always finish it at home after I put everybody to bed and all those kinds of things.
Okay.
The thing that after starting this experience that I also recognized in time, there's a part of our portfolio that we often forget. And anybody who is doing these many roles, you have to have self-care. Now, I hear about self-care all the time.
Yeah.
But what does that mean?
Yes. What does it mean?
I'm going to tell you what self-care means. It is individualized to each person, because all of us get rejuvenated and get our cups filled in different ways. Some people it may be exercise, some people it may be meditation, some people it may be more time in prayer, some people it may be, that they're reading a book, that there's a spiritual book that they need to read or whatever. But we need to do what's going to fill our individual cups with the energy and the things that we need to keep going, because it is exhausting. Recognize it, understand it, but fill your cup.
You travel a lot like I do, and there's always the litany that the flight attendants and the pilot always goes through when they tell you all the safety things. And one of the things about, if there was any reduction in cabin pressure and the plane falls, the oxygen mask is going to come. And if you have a small child, what do they always say?
Do yours first.
Do yourself first before you do someone else.
Exactly.
And that's really your message with respect to self-care as relates to that. And I'm Glad to hear you say that. And it sounds as though what you have learned is that the adjustments that you've had to make as a woman of faith and business, you're willing to do to be the best version of yourself for all the different things that were happening when life happened to you. You know, again, there's certain things that are involuntary, but it sounds like that what you had attempted to do to try to adjust as often as possible to make the priorities, which were your faith, your family, and that's vitally important. What would you say to, some of the women who are struggling with balancing faith, balancing family, balancing self-care? You put out a prescription for yourself, but if someone is currently in a crisis right now, what would be your message to them right now?
So I think that we all have the power of choice. And I think the best way I can describe that is I'd like to share a story with your audience. And when I did my priority list of my portfolio, I did it knowing that there were going to be things that I could control and things that I couldn't. So
Hmm.
I had to understand first what I can't control
Hmm.
and recognize that what I can't control, I have to let go of.
Mm.
And the things I can control, I give my best to. Well, in doing this and taking care of my number one priority, which was all of my family, I was willing to lose every single thing I had
Wow.
financially, everything.
Wow. Mm.
And I did do it.
Hmm.
I had enough in my account when I started to retire at the age I wanted to retire and do just fine, which means I wouldn't be working right now, but I am.
Hmm.
Uh, I had enough to carry me forward. But what I wanted to do is to what Vicki saw in her eyes was going to be her future.
Hmm.
But when God had life happen to me,
Hmm.
I knew I had to make a choice.
Hmm.
And I made the choice that if I lose it all, nothing replaces family. It's okay
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
he's going to rebuild it tenfold.
Hmm.
He's rebuilding this year. This is the first year in 21 years I am not caregiving financially outside of my kids
Oh,
for other
wow.
people. 21 years. Took care of my brother-in-law for 21 years. He passed away in 2023 in November.
Okay.
So I was willing to do what was necessary in my choice. So, what I will tell all your listeners is
Hmm.
make your plans, your schedule as to what you think you can handle. Be flexible and understand there's going to be things that you can't control. When
Hmm.
you can't, let it go. It's
Wow.
not up to you.
Say that
Let
one more
it
time. When
go.
you can't say that one more time.
When you can't control it and things happen, let it go because that's God's plan.
My
Not
God. Mm. And it sounds as though letting it go is freeing for you, although it might be something that you're trying to control. But letting go of control gives you back some measure of control,
exactly.
kind of becoming one and getting to where you
Exactly.
need to be. Stephen Boyd, here on the Heal the Land Experience radio show with my special guest, Vicki Wright-Hamilton, who is sharing golden nuggets basically about the balancing act, if you will, how to balance your faith, your finances, your family. But most importantly, she's a woman of wisdom, reflecting back and giving these golden nuggets as someone who has been there and done that. And so I'm excited to have you here on the show. We're getting ready for the final 3 or 4 minutes. And so, Vicki, I want to ask you a question that I ask a lot of my listeners. This is called the Heal the Land Experience. It's based on 2 Chronicles 7:14, which I wrote a book around. It says, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray, seek my face and turn from the wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, forgive their sins, and heal the land. I want to ask you, and it sounds like you're really into that vein already, but just tell us, what is it that you feel like God has called you to do to heal the land? What is the one passionate thing that you feel like that is your signature to heal the land?
Um, well, I think my signature is to serve others and to do it uniquely. We
Hmm.
are not all exactly alike.
Hmm.
And the ability to customize and personalize is what's important.
Mhm.
And so my gift that I believe God has given me is the ability to look at any situation,
Mhm.
to
Mhm.
look at what people are going through, the challenges that they have, and give them the opportunity to consider a different way of thinking, a different perspective to help them move forward. So my goal is always, whether it is you doing something personally, that you succeed, you excel.
Yes.
That if you're doing a business, that you excel. God did not put us here to fail. He
Come
did
on.
not do that.
Mama.
God put us here to succeed and gave us all the skills that we need in order to do that. It is up to us to grab on to those skills He's given us and maximize them in terms of always keeping our hands open, because
Mhm.
you can't receive if your hands
Your
aren't
hands are
open.
closed. Come on.
So you give to receive. And that's
Yes.
why it's always important. Open those hands, serve all, give all the
Mhm.
gifts that God has given to you.
You've heard it right here on KSDE Radio Live 365, the Heal the Land Experience. My special guest, Vicki Wright-Hamilton, who is admonishing men and women, but specifically women today for Women's History Month, as we talk about being women of faith in business, to be givers, to balance, to seek God, to put your priorities in check, so to speak, to put them in order, but most importantly, to be givers and to serve others with a heart of passion. Vicki, I'm going to give you the last minute or so to just say a final message to our audience, and then we'll come out and we'll close out.
All righty. Well, the one thing, first of all, Stephen, I have truly enjoyed this opportunity, but let me say this. There, to everybody who's listening, I want you to go to the mirror and I want you to look in the mirror and say, I am a child of God.
Come on.
God gave me these strengths, and I'm going to use these strengths for the glory of God so that
Yes.
I can praise Him. And let Him know what those things are that you're going to do it. Manifest it, put it out there. And then I always follow my manifestations and out there and say, God, if this is not what you have planned, close the door and close it immediately.
I like that. And where can people find you? Tell us a little about where we can find you and also your social media.
Sure. So I have a website, Vicki Wright, and that's WRIGHT Hamilton.com. You can reach me there. You can reach me on LinkedIn at Vicki Wright-Hamilton. I am on Instagram. I'm on Facebook. And you can also see my company at BWH Consulting. So you can reach me by any means. Please reach out. I'd love to have a conversation with you.
And especially if you're a woman in business and if you want to glean some really not only great nuggets with respect to business, but from someone who's seasoned and can really empathize perhaps with where you are. She has a customized way to kind of do an assessment to see where you are and then craft a customized plan to move you from where you are to where you want to be. I want to thank everybody so much for being a part of the Heal the Land Experience. And as we always end, we end with 2 Chronicles 7:14, which says, if my people who are called by my name would humble themselves and pray, seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, forgive their sins. God bless you. We love you. Thank you so much for joining us, and bye-bye.